We are just 2 days away from the start of early voting, and new polling is showing us the state of some key races.
There are some very important races taking place down ballot statewide.
We look at what poll data reveals about the contentious campaigns shaping the story of the Texas primary. Data centers are booming in Texas, but that growth comes with concern.
We want those jobs. We need those jobs. However, we also have to be very good stewards of our water resources.
The new move to track data center demand on Texas water, how the state is pushing for answers. Our investigation uncovers millions of dollars meant for crime victims being withheld by the state.
And then all of a sudden, everybody puts their hand in the cookie jar and just takes it from you. I mean, and when it's the state of Texas, you really can't say anything. You're expected to just kind of just shut up and just take it.
The state's reason and why Texas appears to operate differently compared to other states.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Dylan McKim, in for Josh Hinkle this week. Early voting starts in 2 days, and there are tight races up and down the ballot. It starts at the top of each party's ticket in the race for U.S. Senate. This week, the Hobby School of Public Affairs at the University of Houston released new polling. They reached out to likely primary voters in each party. For Democrats, their results show Jasmine Crockett holding an 8-point lead over James Tallarico. 12% of Democrats say they're still undecided. Meanwhile, the Republican race seems destined for a runoff. The Hobby poll shows Ken Paxton leading incumbent Senator John Cornyn by 7 points. Wesley Hunt is trailing. 12% of Republicans say they haven't made up their mind in this race. But beyond those races, the poll is shining a light on other important positions on both sides of the aisle. We spoke with Mark Jones, a pollster and professor at Rice University.
For instance, in the Attorney General primary on the Republican side, you have Chip Roy and Mays Middleton, who are battling it out for first and second, and Joan Huffman in a third place, who's trying to get into the runoff. Aaron Wrights is potentially there as well, but he's trailing badly. On the Democratic ballot, there's a competitive Attorney General primary between Nathan Johnson, a state senator for up in Dallas, Joe Jaworski, former mayor of Galveston, and former FBI agent Tony Box. That's a competitive one that may very well just decide on March 3rd which two candidates go to the May runoff.
In addition to the Attorney General's race, Jones says Republicans should pay attention to the race for state comptroller.
In the controller's race, which is an increasingly important position because of the role that it plays in managing the education savings accounts, which were launched by the legislature last year, you have Don Huffines, Christy Craddock, and Kelly Hancock battling it out for two positions in the May 26 runoff.
Another contentious campaign is the Republican race for Texas Agriculture Commissioner. Incumbent Sid Miller is trying to win a fourth term, but Governor Greg Abbott endorsed his opponent, Nate Sheets. Capitol reporter Adam Schwager breaks down the race and how Sheets went from supporting Miller to campaigning against him.
Three-term commissioner of the Texas Department of Agriculture, Sid Miller, hasn't faced a challenge like this. Governor Greg Abbott endorsed his opponent Nate Sheets in January, a move that stunned many.
I was blown away.
Except Miller himself.
Oh, I wasn't surprised. The governor's recruited this opponent, my two previous opponents. The governor just doesn't like me.
On the Mark Davis Show on 660 AM The Answer, Abbott laid out his lack of confidence in Miller.
He's been an utter failure in his job as ag commissioner.
Do you want to respond to that comment?
Well, I totally disagree, and I've got the facts to back it up. In our exit interview, the Sunset Commission said the Texas Department of all the decades that they'd been reviewing state agencies, the Texas Department of Agriculture is the best-run state agency they had ever reviewed.
In their most recent review, the Sunset Commission said the Ag Department was well managed, but identified several opportunities to provide a firmer foundation for staff to successfully perform. Sheets is the former CEO of Honey Company, Nature Nates.
My mission statement at Nature Nates was to glorify God and help you and your family live healthy lives. And so the health of all Americans was sacrosanct to us as an organization.
He says he used to be a Miller supporter, but his main opposition is Miller's chief of staff, Todd Smith. Miller cut ties with Smith as his political aide in 2022 when he was charged with theft and commercial bribery. Smith later pled guilty to the bribery charge in October 2024.
They would have convicted him, but he pled guilty, so Sid Miller wouldn't have had to have testified against him. They had subpoenaed Sid.
2 months after Smith pled guilty, Miller hired him to be his chief of staff with a salary of over $200,000. Miller has a different recollection of Smith's legal troubles.
Todd was going to face a George Soros DA, George Soros judge, and a Democrat jury in Travis County. I told him, take the deal. Don't risk it. And he did.
In a statement, the Travis County District Attorney's Office said, in part, "It is not surprising but disappointing that Mr. Miller kept a person who swore under oath that he is guilty of a felony on his team." Whoever wins the primary will face Democrat Clayton Tucker in the November general election. Tucker is a farmer from Lampasas. He is running unopposed in the primary and says he wants to reach voters through an old-style populist grassroots campaign. Despite no Democrat winning an ag commissioner race since 1986, Tucker feels recent changes in the Texas Democratic Party will help his campaign.
I would say the Texas Democrats are getting to their true roots, their historic roots, their populist roots. I mean, look at the new chairman, Chair Kendall Scudder. You know, he's really leading the Democrats back to the way the Democrats, economically speaking, used to be. This anti-corporation, this anti-monopoly, this really economic populism.
Early voting for this race starts on February 17th. For State of Texas, I'm Adam Schwager.
Despite the governor supporting Sheets, Miller is still leading the race. That's what polling from the University of Houston shows. It found just under half of likely Republican voters supported Miller. That's 30 points higher than what Sheets pulled in this poll. But the poll also found that more than a third of Republican voters had not yet made up their mind in this race. Online now, you can see our full interviews with Sid Miller, Nate Sheets, and Clayton Tucker. But that's not all. We spoke to the top candidates in several key races on your ballot. That includes the race for U.S. Senate, Texas Governor, and Attorney General. You can check them out before you head to the polls. Look for the links in this week's State of Texas story on our website. With Texas at the center of a renewed immigration crackdown, one lawmaker is calling for major oversight. The push at the Capitol to rethink the state's partnership with ICE. Crime victims counting on relief instead get letters saying their money is being taken. We investigate why critical dollars are being diverted from Texans recovering from violent crime. Texas data centers could soon face new questions about how much water they're using, the new call for answers, and why it matters for our water supply. Austin Democratic State Representative Vicki Goodwin is raising concerns about U.S. immigration and customs enforcement's tactics here in Texas. Goodwin, who's running for lieutenant governor, is calling for a legislative review of the state's cooperation with ICE. Part of the concern stems from a state mandate that certain local law enforcement partner with the agency through 287G agreements. Our team has investigated those agreements extensively through our undocumented project. In a letter to the lieutenant governor and House Speaker, Goodwin called for the formation of an emergency bipartisan committee to look into concerns following tension over the Trump administration's ongoing immigration crackdown. The pressure boiled over in Minnesota last month after 2 U.S. citizens were shot and killed during altercations with federal agents amid protests. Texas has been at the forefront of a nationwide effort to intertwine ICE activities with local law enforcement. 287G agreements allow local officers to serve as, quote, force multipliers during their routine duties in the community. The number of 287G agreements has risen dramatically with the implementation of a new state law mandating all counties with a jail enter into such partnerships. The number of participating agencies in Texas has now surpassed 300, topped only by Florida. Goodwin wants an ad hoc committee to evaluate whether these agreements are in the best interest of Texans. In a statement, she says, quote, when concerns arise about deaths, detentions, and lack of transparency, state leaders have a responsibility to step back and evaluate whether this partnership is in the best interest of Texans. Republican State Senator Charles Schwartner of Georgetown, who authored this new law, recently told us, quote, we are closely monitoring the rollout of the 287G grant program, and to date, Texas counties have stepped into compliance, strengthening law enforcement cooperation and making our communities safer. Our team reached out to the Speaker and Lieutenant Governor's offices, along with other candidates for Lieutenant Governor, for comment. We will update any responses on our website. Look for them in this week's State of Texas story. A viewer tip opened the door, and our investigation is raising questions. Why Texas is clawing back funds intended for survivors of violent crime. Data centers are booming in Texas, but that growth comes with concern. Now, state lawmakers move to track data center water use, the new move that could help get answers. Our team's investigation found Texas may be unique when it comes to clawing back money meant to help victims of violent crime. We've been digging into the state's crime victims compensation program for years. Now, a new revelation starting from a viewer tip, and what Investigator Matt Grant learned is leading lawmakers to call for change.
Whatever, you violent person.
Shut the up!
Shut up! Shut up! Leave me alone, dude. Ah! Ah!
I said shut the up!
Dumb, that's assault!
This confrontation at a downtown Austin rental property last spring caught on camera.
She's actually throwing a small shovel at me.
Still hard for Michael Mena to believe.
I knew right away I need to start recording this. I need to have proof that, because nobody's going to believe that this person, this older lady, beat the crap out of some guy like me.
Mena says all this stemmed from a parking dispute with his neighbor that led to an attack, police involvement, and a rush to relocate. The woman was charged with misdemeanor assault, and the case remains pending. Her attorney declined to comment. Records show Mena was awarded $5,000 from Texas's Crime Victims Compensation Fund to pay for moving and medical expenses. But there was a problem.
And then all of a sudden, everybody puts their hand in the cookie jar and just takes it from you. I mean, and when it's the state of Texas, you really can't say anything. You're expected to just kind of just shut up and just take it.
Last fall, Mena received these letters from the controller's office informing him he owed money because state law prohibits payments to anyone indebted to the state. Texas then withheld more than half of what he'd received as a crime victim, nearly $1,700 for unpaid state university tuition and fees, and nearly $1,300 in unpaid sales tax. He says for a 17-year-old business venture that never got off the ground. Mena says while the money wasn't critical for him, for others, it could be.
I'm sure there's people out there that are victims of domestic violence, victims of gun violence and stuff that really need these funds. That really, really, really need these funds that, oh my God, they cannot let theirs do or die for them.
Our team's review of state data since 2020 found Texas clawed back more than $14 million from more than 6,000 debts. The top reasons include unemployment benefit overpayments, along with owing child support and state sales tax. We also found money recouped for things like unpaid library fines, parking tickets, and tuition.
General Paxson, the Crime Victims Compensation Fund.
Can you reach out to our press office?
We have.
Okay.
We've reached out for a year. We haven't heard back. We're just trying to get answers on behalf of crime victims.
For years, KXAN has investigated problems with the Crime Victims Fund, managed by the Attorney General's office, and been met with silence. The office would not comment on this latest withholding concern either.
And that's an insult. That's an insult to the residents of Texas. That's an insult to me. That's an insult to victims.
We reached out to every state and found Texas may be unique. Of the states that responded, none are as strict when it comes to withholding reimbursements from crime victims. At least 29 don't withhold any payments, and at least 8 do withhold money, but only in limited circumstances, most often when someone owes child support or court fees.
Honestly, on a micro level, to like an individual victim, it's devastating.
Donna Bloom is an attorney with Denton County Friends of the Family, supporting survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault.
It's sort of kicking someone when they're down.
She's seen the impact firsthand and worries seizing payments can put survivors at risk.
It impacts their ability to maintain their housing. It maybe means that they can't continue to have their kids in childcare. They may be making life decisions about reconciliation with their abusive partner. It can impact their desire to want to further cooperate with law enforcement.
Do we need to clarify things in statute?
For years, Democratic State Representative Donna Howard of Austin has fought to fix problems with Texas's Crime Victims Fund.
Very appreciative of the work that y'all do to help us know where there are these shortcomings that we can address.
She was unaware the state was using the fund to collect on old unrelated debts.
Texas appears to be an outlier in how we're doing this.
Until we showed her.
I think it's pretty outrageous.
Howard now plans to file a bill next legislative session to update the law, ensuring the funds go directly to victims without exception.
I believe that the Attorney General's office is following what the statute says, that it's up to us as a legislative body to clarify this statute, which is what I intend to do when we come back this next session.
Do you think the law should change to protect these funds?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, this is not about debt collection. This is about helping victims of violent crime.
Dumb, that's assault.
Mena, meanwhile, is moving on. He understands he owes money, but says there should be a better way for the state to collect.
The crime victims compensation should not be touched. There should be no question about it. Like, I don't even know why it's a discussion on it. You know what I mean? It's a victim.
Well, we reached out to the state controller's office, which processes state payments, along with Governor Abbott's office, and with Ken Paxton running for U.S. Senate. We also reached out to the candidates running to replace him as Attorney General, along with other lawmakers. Many now are reacting to what we found, supporting a change to the system. We've posted the comments we've received on our website. You can find the link in this week's State of Texas story. Dylan?
And Matt, the man in your story said he was unaware of the old debts that had led to withholding his compensation funds. Do victims get any opportunity to dispute that or appeal it?
Unfortunately not. According to the letter that we saw from the controller's office, these debts have to be paid before the state can make a payment. So really the only option is you need to pay the debt yourself, or the state's going to garnish the payments that you were awarded, in this case through the Crime Victims Fund.
We also heard from Representative Donna Howard in your story. She's been pushing for improvements to the Crime Victims Compensation Fund really for years. Are other lawmakers joining that fight?
At least one other lawmaker, State Representative Mary Gonzalez, Democrat from the El Paso area. She actually shared our story and she commented on it for us, saying that she supports a change to the system. She left some room for potential exemptions, for example, for like child payments. But she supports a change to the system, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, lawmakers are definitely taking notice.
Okay, Matt, thank you so much for reporting. We know you'll stay on top of this.
Thank you.
More data centers are coming to Texas, but what does that mean for the state's water supply?
I think it really leads to this bigger question, like, are we planning in the right way for future water demands?
Now lawmakers say they need answers. We'll break down the new rule that aims to get details about data center water use. The amount of money going toward building data centers in Texas is soaring. That's according to a new analysis of the state's economy by the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. The analysis showed spending to build these facilities went up 3,000% in the last 5 years. As DuPree learned, Texas regulators are now looking into how this booming industry is tapping the state's water supply.
Round Rock publicly shares water usage for data centers like this. Over the past year, you see on the city's website that this one used about 2 million gallons of water, the same amount as roughly 15 single-family homes. Now, state utility regulators would like that kind of information from every facility like it operating in Texas.
We will begin rules and projects with item number 26.
The Public Utility Commission of Texas will put out a survey this spring asking about the water usage for data centers and crypto mining facilities. The businesses will then have 6 weeks to respond.
Texans, regulators in the legislature really needs to have an understanding of data centers, really needs to understand the water they're using so that we can plan and create the Texas we want. So I really just want to reiterate, it's important for them to participate. So the commission is definitely watching.
This directive got written into the state budget last year by State Representative Armando Wally.
These are new entities that are coming to the state of Texas. We want those jobs. We need those jobs. However, we also have to be very good stewards of our water resources.
A team from the Houston Advanced Research Center estimated that existing data centers in Texas consume about 1% of the state's total water use for things like producing their own power or cooling equipment. They expect that to grow to nearly 3% by the year 2030.
And so this new water use period
is not planned for in our state water plan, and will just contribute to that water shortage and cause more competition for our water supplies.
That is why policy experts say it's critical. New industry growth is a central part of the conversation when planning for the future.
I think it really leads to this bigger question, like, are we planning in the right way for future water demands and projects that will deliver the water supplies that we need?
Will DuPree, State of Texas.
The state will use all the responses to the water use survey to compile a report. That's supposed to come out by the end of this year. Policy experts say that will likely play into conversations that could arise about data center regulation during next year's legislative session. It's not just water that's a concern. We've told you before how ERCOT, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, says they've seen a spike in what they call large load requests. That's when a high-demand energy user, like an AI data center, asks to connect to the grid. Back in December, ERCOT reported that large load requests have nearly quadrupled in about a year's time to around 220 plus gigawatts. To put that into perspective, that's roughly 200 nuclear power plants worth of demand. About 3/4 of that requested demand is coming from data centers. Thank you again for joining us for State of Texas. We'll be right back here next week to bring you an in-depth look at Texas politics.